J'ai deux âmes.
But aloha, boys and girls, welcome back to yet another video, and here today we're going to be talking about CTF versus Uplink, getting right into it. I know a lot of my videos normally have intros that I talk about something that's going on in my life. Not really anything, to be honest. I have like a 10-page paper due Monday, and I'm kind of saying what I said I wasn't going to do, but either way, I'm not going to talk about that. Not any negative vibes here. We're just going to be talking and discussing CTF versus Uplink. It's basically like the main topic going on right now in the Call of Duty scene. Obviously, we have 4 game types to decide from. Hardpoint and Search and Destroy, you can basically nail those down. Like there's no doubt in my mind that when it comes to the competitive rotation for this year, that Hardpoint and both Search and Destroy will be there without a doubt, especially Search and Destroy. Like, you have to have Search. Like, it's just been that way since, like, the dawn of time. And so, like I said, we have basically a main struggle going on between which game type we want to be in a regular, rotation for maps and stuff. And I know the qualifier for the Call of Duty World League's coming up, and I believe less than a month now, or it's getting really close to less than a month if it's not already. And we don't know what the game types are going to be played. We don't know the maps. We don't know anything for sure yet, if there's going to be any global bans or anything like that. And the players aren't really getting mad, but they're like, we need to decide this. We need to be able to practice stuff for the World League in preparation for this, because this is a major deal. The World League means so much, and being involved in trying to, get in this first qualifier is just going to be a major load off your back. So these players want to know what we're going to be playing, and especially what game types we're going to be playing, whether it's going to be CTF or is it going to be Uplink. And to be honest with you, how it's done in the past, and at the beginning and toward the middle of Advanced Warfare, we actually had 4 game types. We played Hardpoint, we played Search and Destroy, we also played Uplink and CTF, and then we went back to another Search and Destroy. In games past, we had Ghosts, which had Domination in place of Hardpoint. We had Search, and we also had Blitz, which is kind of Uplink's, it's kind of like Ghost's version of their own game type that they made, similar to Advanced Warfare's Uplink. It was actually, it was not similar by any means in any way, since you're on the ground and you're sliding for Blitz and you're throwing a drone in for Uplink and Advanced Warfare, but it was still kind of similar in a sense. But even stretching back farther than Advanced Warfare and Ghost, back to Black Ops 2, we played Hardpoint, we played Search and Destroy, and we also played CTF. However, in this game, when you kind of decide and you say, well, which one plays better? They implemented Uplink was a big deal because obviously we had no idea how Treyarch was going to do this game. We didn't know if they were going to implement old stuff from other titles, and they obviously did. They implemented Uplink, which is what we saw back in Advanced Warfare. It kind of premiered there. It was a main staple in Advanced Warfare's life cycle. I mean, you would watch a series, and honestly, I would say, to be real with you, Uplink kind of made a lot more tournaments that much more exciting. You would go to a hard point, which I would debate, the amount of strategy that was used. You go to Search and Destroy, that was fine. It's not the same way that Search has usually been played. And then we had this game type called Uplink, which we've never seen before. You have 2 portals on either side. I know you guys know how it works, but you have the ability to throw the drone. You have the ability to pass the drone, the ability to dunk the drone, and that made for some insane plays last year. I can think of like the optic one over on, I think it was a Comeback, and then TJ's amazing shot that the 1-point play. I believe that was at like UMG Orlando. I can't remember which event it was with, but it was just a fantastic year for that game type. Like, everyone loved to watch Uplink for the most part. We saw some of the biggest highlights of AW in that game type specifically. However, this is a new game. This is a new title. It's not like, it's similar to Advanced Warfare, but it's not the exact same thing of what AW brought us. It's a different game. I would kind of combine Black Ops 2 and AW, much like everyone else does. Compare those two, bring them together, and that's kind of like what Black Ops 3, how the style is and how the movement kind of, initiates with each other. So for right now, Uplink and CTF do not play like they have in the past. Well, I'll say at least Uplink does it. So I'm going to start off with CTF, kind of talking about each one, and then I'll maybe give my opinion on which game type I would like to see in the competitive rotation, because we may not be able to choose both of them, and I would prefer just one over the other. Which one it'll be, we'll talk about that, but I don't think that we're going to be able to choose both of them, and substitute to hardpoint. I think we're definitely going to have 2 hardpoints, and this game type will be most likely game 3, much like, how Uplink was in AW and, CTF was in the past, and so on and so forth. Alright, so obviously we did get to see a little bit of this game type. At least we were able to see a broadcasted version, the players actually playing CTF and Uplink at the past event. which was the Totino's 50K. If you guys are curious what that was, I did make a recap video. Feel free to check that out if you'd like to. I gave a very, wide description, big summary of what really happened and, how it looked to start off the Black Ops 3 season. So if you guys want to check that out, feel free to. I'll put a link in the description if you guys would like to watch that one. But regardless, we got to see CTF being played, which is the one we're going to be talking about first, and it plays extremely, extremely slow for right now. And I say the words "for right now" because we don't know how the game's going to progress moving forward. So the other day, actually, is a perfect example of making this video. Like, it was pretty good timing that I made this video now. Optic Gaming actually played against E6, I believe, after they got knocked out of the 4v4 variant on the 17th, which was a Tuesday. They got knocked out, E6 did as well, and they actually played a CTF, and as far as I know, from what I heard, they actually played like a 24-25 minute CTF game. I almost said Uplink. They played a 24-25 minute CTF game, constantly going into overtime after overtime after overtime. I wasn't able to watch it. That's just what I've seen people tweet out on Twitter, saying this is a prime example of why we don't want CTF in the competitive rotation, because we could just see a massive stalemate because of how slow the players are playing it for right now. I know I keep saying that. So like I said, I'm going to reiterate once again, the reason why I'm saying for right now has to do with the fact that this game is new. We haven't really got to be able to experience the full CTF experience that we've had, in the past. For Black Ops 2, I don't know if anyone remembers the beginning of competitive Black Ops 2. I'm not sure whenever you personally, if you're watching this, got into competitive Call of Duty or whatnot. But this game, CTF, used to play extremely slow. And we used to play it on a bunch of different maps that really did not matter. Like, we used to play it on, I think it was like Carrier. I can't remember. It's that one map that's like you're basically on like a ship carrier where you like launch jets off of. It's basically the map where everyone snipes off of. I can't really explain where. It might be called Carrier. I'm actually going to look it up. Okay, I was right. It's called Carrier. I was just making sure I don't want to get it wrong. But either way, we used to play competitive CTF at the beginning of the game on that map. And you guys know how widespread that is. Like, that was basically a pain to watch for the most part. And it was not fun to watch, and everyone played extremely slow back then at the beginning of Black Ops 2, and then later, as everyone kind of got used to it, an event or two went by, that's when CTF started to get great. That's when we saw, the amount of fantastic CTF games throughout Black Ops 2. And once that actually happened, like once players started to understand the game, that's when we saw those insane matches. For instance, I always think, and this is my opinion, obviously it's my opinion, but my most favorite series of all time was Freako Impact versus Complexity at MLG Anaheim, back in Black Ops 2, of course. And it was like, there were such fantastic games, watching Impact and Complexity, two amazing teams that we still have amazing teams now, with some of those players still involved with them. It's kind of funny that Complexity's back now, but, the amazing CTF match, Standoff, which went, into overtime. We saw TK versus Complexity, where Complexity scored with, like, literally not even any time left. Even the Optic Van, that was a CTF on Standoff as well. Like, all those games were on a certain map, but CTF became one of the most fun things to watch when you were on the right map and when you had the right teams playing against each other. You were always in line for a fantastic match. I always think of, it was like Nifty's team. I think it was like Ego and someone else. And they played, it was like Icons Conquer. I think it was either Icons, I can't remember the exact team, but they were playing against Envy, and that was an insane matchup. That was also on Standoff. So if you can find the right map to play it on, if you get the players to finally, understand the game where it's not so campy. Because like I said, the beginning of Black Ops 2, they were playing just as campy, as we are right now in Black Ops 3. But once we get to that point, and I think honestly that's going to happen where, we're going to be able to see that type of playstyle again. Are we going to see that same capability of maps? I don't know, because those were like some of the best matches in Call of Duty history. I suggest that you go back and watch them, some of the ones that I mentioned. Those are some of the best Call of Duty matches, best series of all time. And, a lot of them had to do with CTF once the players had fully understood how it worked. And like I said, I'm not saying that that's going to happen for Black Ops 3. I'm not saying the same thing is going to happen. But based on what we've seen in the past, a similarity to what we're experiencing now, it's looking like it could possibly be the same situation where players, after they learn the game, after they learn the maps, because even at the event where everyone's kind of comparing this to, half of them didn't even know the maps. Like, they weren't even scrimming Search and Destroy. They weren't really scrimming CTF as much as, other teams were. They didn't even know the game types they were going to be playing. I think I heard a vlog from someone, and I can't remember who it was, but they were comparing, and they were saying, we didn't know if we were going to play CTF and Uplink and Hardpoint Search and Destroy. Like, we figured certain game types we would be playing, but most of them just scrimmed Hardpoint. Some of them didn't even know the maps. Like, they didn't even played any of these maps because we were only a week in, and we're only 2 weeks in right now. Like, we don't even know how the game is going to progress later on down the line. So I don't want to see 25-minute, CTF games being played where no one wants to explore out of their base. But even casting the other day, I actually got a chance to cast CTF a little bit. It was pretty interesting. The games got pretty, pretty, hectic here and there. And I think if you find the right maps, which we haven't found them yet, if we find the right maps to play it on, I think it could be a pretty fun game type to watch. But like I said, we have to get these guys out. They have to play a little bit more to fully understand and to give a full opinion on CTF for this year. Because it could definitely be a game type. It could not be a game type. We don't know. It's versing Uplink for right now. So I know I talked a long time about CTF. There's a lot of stuff that I could go on and say more, but I'm going to end it there, and now we're going to move on to some Uplink and kind of compare it to some of the stuff that I did. There's some of the examples that I used for CTF. All right, so like I mentioned earlier, I was talking about Uplink. I basically kind of gave half of what I was going to say for this section, is that AW Uplink obviously brought us something completely new. It was a new invigorating game type, something that we've never heard of, and it was honestly one of my most favorite games to watch. It brought us so many highlights throughout Advanced Warfare, and I already brought up, some of the things that we've saw, like TJ's, 1-second throw. I can remember, I think like Formal got really hyped after they started scoring a bunch of points. The amount of comebacks that we saw in Uplink on the map comeback was absolutely insane for this year. We saw a lot of insane plays. I say this year, but I mean like last title, I guess. But reiterating, it's not the same game. Like Uplink obviously is the same game type. You basically have the same thing, but the ball mechanics aren't the same. In Advanced Warfare, you can literally launch that ball across the drone, whatever. You can launch the drone across the entire map. In Black Ops 3, you can't really throw it as far or hardly as far anymore, and there aren't the same map dynamics that there were in Advanced Warfare that there are in Black Ops 3. Now, granted, you can run on walls, you can do this, you can do that, but you don't have, an everlasting, jetpack or whatever, an Advanced Warfare suit thing, an exoskeleton, I think is what it's called. You don't have that in this game. While it's similar, it's not the exact same thing. You can jump only so high. You can't, jump off a building and then, double jump and score. That's like your only option. Advanced Warfare, you could do a bunch of different stuff. The passing is a little bit more crisp. You could do, you can constantly slide. You're always constantly moving in Advanced Warfare. And in Black Ops 3, while it is similar, being able to score, being able to shoot is a major thing. And in this game, it's just not the same. The ball mechanics are a lot different. It's a lot harder to shoot the drone because I think the ball dynamics makes it weigh a little bit more. Whenever you drop it on the ground, it sounds like you're dropping a 10 ball. It sounds kind of weird. Not that that's the only reason, but it kind of simulates like what it actually is like. And you also have to take in the fact of specialist. Being able to shut down the drone carrier in one shot if you have your specialist enabled could make for a bunch of different plays. And I know in Uplink as well, overdrive, that specialist that makes you run really quickly, that's going to be the main specialist to use in Uplink as well. That's really the only major way you can get points effectively is using your specialist. So if you didn't have specialists, I don't even think that Uplink could be a possible matter to even decide with. But regardless, it's CTF versus Uplink, and it's really hard to choose based on the first 2 weeks of the game, because one game isn't as the same way as it has been in the past, and CTF is playing extremely slow for right now also. So in my opinion, and I also want to hear your guys' opinions down below in the comments as well, CTF or Uplink, and give you a reason why. You don't have to like hate on anyone if they say something you don't agree with, but just, creative discussion is always a big deal in the comments as well. We talked about this on the Sticks Live the other day also. We were just kind of debating and talking about this because it's a major deal right now in the competitive scene. Everyone wants to know which game type are we playing for this year, especially the players, because they're obviously going to be playing it for the rest of the year too. So I think, in my opinion, I'm more of a fan of CTF in this game. I've saw some really good Uplink games, but for the most part, CTF seems to be more fluent. I think once players realize and kind of get a feel for the game, they don't have to camp in their base, and I think the reason why it's played a lot more patiently, I would use that, in with air quotes. But I think the reason why it's playing so slow is obviously, like I said, it's a new game. It's a new feel. You don't really know the routes to run for CTF. You don't know the cutoffs for CTF either. And I think at least I saw a little sample of CTF last night that I absolutely loved. There were some really good moments, rotations meaning a lot more. And I think, in my opinion, CTF and Uplink really aren't that different from each other. Regardless of having that drone in the middle of the base, your main objective is to take this certain thing, whether it's a flag or whether it's a drone, and take it to the enemy base or take it to your base, take it to the other side of the map and try to score it while the other team tries to defend you. So, I mean, it's not the exact same thing by any means because you're taking it from your base in CTF, in an Uplink, you're taking it to their base. It's a little bit different, but it's still the same concept of moving from one side of the map to the other with this certain object, and once you do it, it obviously resets. I mean, you can't really reset the flag in CTF unless you jump off the map. In Uplink, that's a major thing, because on some maps, if you're wall running, that drone automatically gets reset and it's put back in the middle of the map, which also could portray a lot slower gameplay. I don't think we're going to be seeing nearly as many points in Black Ops 3 as we did in Advanced Warfare. I doubt we're going to see hardly any 10-point halves where the game automatically ends just due to the fact that this game plays a little bit slower. And also, I want CTF to be fixed because for right now, I don't know if they're going to plan on keeping it this way. So for example, if I'm just going to use Optic Gaming and Denial as, as an example. So let's say the Optic Gaming on the first side of CTF, they score 6 flags. So normally what would happen in a regular CTF game is that for the next side, it's still 6 to, let's just say 2. So let's say that Denial and Optic had 6 to 2 at the end of the first side on CTF. Now you go to the next side, and other titles for CTF, it would still be 6 to 2. But you would just switch sides. Now in this game, it completely resets. So you're back at 0 to 0. Technically, Optic just won 1 to 0 on the first side. So if Optic wins based on, it doesn't matter how many flags they get, if Optic ends up winning the second side, that means they win. If Denial scores 1 to 0 on the second side, even though Optic technically scored more flags than them in the entire matchup, Denial still forces that overtime game. So it's not the exact same thing, which is very interesting. It's a lot different, and I'm not sure I'm a big fan of that because I think teams should be rewarded for their first side performance. It shouldn't just be done and over. I think that the other team should have to kind of have to make their way back. And if Denial would have been 6-1 down or 1-6 down, whatever, they'd have to make that comeback in the second side. So I think that's just my opinion for right now. I think that's how it works right now, as far as I know. In regular games, I haven't really got to the point where it's been super close, but still, we'll have to see. I know also if you tie on the second side, they'll actually go to your first side scores, so it's hard to explain. I wish it would go back to the way it normally was, but we'll see if there's any updates with that. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you guys didn't enjoy it or learn anything new, make sure to leave a like, and also make sure to subscribe for more videos. I do my best to upload every other day based on like 95% of it's Call of Duty. 90% of that 95% is all competitive stuff. So if you guys want to, make sure to do that. That's going to do it for this video, guys. I hope you all did enjoy, and I'll see you all in the next one. So have a fantastic day, and until next time, peace out.